G'day everyone, welcome back to some more property chat. Today I'm here with Brian Matthews, private town planner. He's a local town planner here in Brisbane, and today we're going to chat all things property development, DAs, some of the biggest misconceptions that we see people when they're going through the development process. So Brian, how you going, mate?
Doing really well, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and thanks for being a part of it. It's always nice to have different perspective from someone else in the industry.
Well, absolutely. Good to be here and have a chat.
Yeah. So tell us, obviously, we've caught up a few times, known you for a while now. You've been in the development game probably longer than 99% of people, even other town planners out there.
Possibly.
Yeah. What's your background and sort of what got you into the property game?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a town planner by qualification. And so I've been working in town planning for well over 25 years, which seems like a long time now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I've been in business and self-employed for over 20 years. And in terms of business, we're town planners, property development consultants. And what got me into the business, well, I was good at geography at university or at high school, and I thought to myself, I wonder what career path I could go into. Anyway, one thing led to another. And so I did town planning at university, and here we are.
25 years later, hey?
25 years later.
How good. And I mean, you've probably seen so much change in the last 25 years. Because you're just in Brisbane mainly, hey, doing the town planning thing.
Yeah, anywhere in Southeast Queensland. We definitely do Brisbane.
Yeah.
And because of its size, it tends to draw the most business.
Yeah.
But now with the cities expanding, of course, you've got places like Logan and Ipswich and Moreton Bay.
Yeah.
So we do work in those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've definitely seen a few things change and some things stay very much the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, and even over the last 25 years, because I know even in the last 10 years, I feel sort of, even the time that I've been around in the last sort of 5 years, what's some of the biggest things you've seen change in the last 25 years in terms of development, council, what are people doing? Even though splitter blocks, right? 10 years ago, everyone was picking them up, but now they're not so much. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. Look, some of the really broad things that have changed, I would say the general process of development hasn't changed, but the persons behind it and the personalness of it has changed. So in the old days, you would, put plans together and that would take time, then arrange a meeting, see human beings at an office somewhere, talk with council officers. And now everything's very digital and very hands-off and very email-based. So that, I think I have specific stories about sitting with council officers and stuff where decisions will be made in the room.
Oh, yeah.
But now everything's done by paper and you go back and forwards. So that part, I think, which being an older consultant, we miss that.
Yeah.
But other parts have changed. So the simplicity of technology and delivering things and lodging things digitally is amazing. I specifically remember having to, print and bind dozens of copies of things and put them over the counter. So it's a nice switch between those elements. But being able to meet people, I think, is a missed opportunity, which I'd love to see some of that come back.
Yeah, they don't do it as much, hey? Because I know there's a lot of, what are they called, pre-lodgement meetings and that sort of thing. But even a lot of those just seem very straight to the point. Whereas it's not so much relationship building now, hey?
Exactly.
Maybe it keeps it more even, the playing field, I don't know.
I think it's just that the cities are bigger now and the government authorities and the councils are bigger and they have to manage their own workload, their skill sets, and they need to be seen to be doing the right things in terms of decisions. But yeah, it's really good. It's actually really good to go to pre-lodgement sometimes, and even if you don't necessarily get all the answers you need, just to be able to sit with the officers and see, them as people and hear how they talk and relate. There's value in that, for 100%. Sure.
Because when would you recommend someone do the pre-lodgement meeting thing? Obviously there's some developments that you wouldn't bother about it, you just do your DA, right? When is the opportunity or when is it right to do the pre-lodgement? Does that make sense?
It is a good question. I would say there's a couple of scenarios. Scenario one is if you literally are starting a development and you just want to understand how the process works, you could literally book a pre-lodgement meeting.
So anyone can book one?
Anyone can book one.
Right, okay.
And you can go to that and participate in it to see how it works. Ideally with a real development. And you'll learn then how council approaches those. The other reason to do them is if you're doing something complicated, where you just don't have all the answers and there's too much risk involved, and you really need to connect with the local authority early. Because the truth is, there's not much we don't know as town planners about what's required, but occasionally you need to connect with council to get in that due diligence or that information early because they might have some things that we don't know about.
Yeah, for sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, so if it's for a $500 development, probably not.
Yeah.
If it's for a $5 million development, there's a lot of reasons to do that.
100%.
Meeting.
Yeah. Especially when it might be something a little bit more tricky and, I don't know, you're doing a lot of townhouses compared to, say, your, normal 1 into 2 subdivision or something like that.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't really need to bother about it too much.
You wouldn't. You really don't need to. And you'll often, if I speak to a lot of people during, the year, a lot of people are new to development, and they'll ask me, do we need a meeting with this? And I'll say, look, there's nothing that they can tell me that we don't already know.
Yeah.
But other times we'll just switch that and say, no, there's some things here we really need to connect with them on. Let's organise that meeting.
Yeah, for sure. And say for a newer developer who's going through like the council process at the moment, or is like, thinking about doing a subdivision or something like that, what's sort of the one thing they miss or think will be quicker than it is in the council process? Is there something that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to, say, doing a DA application to do a subdivision? Or
well, it's almost just always time. As in, how long does it take to process a DA? Well, the answer is, for a simple one, it's about 3 months, and that's from lodgement though. So you got to prepare. You got to prepare before that, and preparation can be a month, it can be 2 months. So I would say, in terms of general DAs, it's just time. Just the sheer time involved of moving that thing through the process is now long, and there's very few ways to shortcut it.
Yeah.
So getting that information early is definitely worthwhile.
Especially because I know sometimes even we've seen it where the council will come back to you with something you don't even expect, right? Like I've had even a couple of scenarios where, they've done up the plans for like a 1 into 2 subdivision, separate driveways, and then the council's come back saying, hey, we want combined driveway.
Yeah,
and then doing that whole process will just take an extra month or 2 months, right?
That's right. So if we've prepared an application we think will work, or a design, and we put it into council, and they ask, and it's called an information request, then the moment you get that, you've added nearly 2 to 4 weeks to your process, because you've got to prepare it, respond, and then the officers take some more time to assess it. So it goes back into the circle or the loop, so to speak. It goes back out to specialist officers, and they check it. Whereas if it was just me handing it to you, you just look at it and go, look, it looks fine. But that takes at least 2 to 3 weeks with council. So that's the time of development. It's a lengthy process now. And we know what we're looking for early on, but there's lots of times where we don't always control the time. And
time is money for most of the developers, right? When money's not cheap at the moment. And, we've talked about that, and sites aren't cheap at the moment either, right? I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, is actually like finding the right sites and, trying to buy it for the right price to actually make the project make money.
Completely. Time is money. And so, it takes time to do these developments. Your normal house DA would be easily, as we said, 3 months. Subdivision DAs can be 3 to 4 months. And then, of course, you've got all the delivery time frame on that.
Exactly,
so, we can talk about that if you like, but the average time frame for a 1 into 2 subdivision for your first time is absolutely 12 months from beginning to end.
Which is what a lot of people don't consider. It's like we're just going to get in, do the subdivision, and it'll be done in 6 months.
Yes.
But it's never that easy or that fast.
It's always different numbers. And look, it's only because they're new to it. And in terms of the business that I run, we deal with a lot of people that are new to the process, and that's fine. We're here to help with that. And then once they understand, once they get their first conversation out of the way, they realise it's not 6 months and it's not $60,000. It's 12 months and maybe $130,000. So now we've got the base. Well, do we move forward? Is that within your budget? And if it is within your budget, let's get started.
Especially with the costing. I think obviously construction costs are a lot higher than they were, but it's like it doesn't cost you 50 grand to do a subdivision anymore, right? Like you actually got to account for that in your construction costs when you're doing your FISO, because it can so easily blow out. Like if you're saying it's only going to cost you 50 grand for a subdivision, most likely that's pretty short these days. We're thinking at least 100k now to do all your civil work and
completely. Whatnot. If it's a 1 into 2 or 1 into 3, of course, the costs, you get some cost advantages in doing a 1 into 3, but no, it will cost you more money than that. And look, I have a conversation every week with someone who's new to development or has a property that they want to develop, and the first thing we talk about is time and the cost, because once we need to get that out. There's nothing worse than being involved in a subdivision and being truly involved,
Yeah.
and then realising you need another $50,000.
Yeah.
So our job as consultants is to help people get that information out early, and then go on to deliver and get approvals and all those sorts of things. But I think the onus is on us as consultants to let people know about that early, and that I would say is probably one of the differences between pure town planning
Yeah.
and development consulting. So town planners will get in and do the council application process. They'll prepare DAs. They'll do all those sorts of things. And they'll have a real good skill set around that, but they may not have the skill set around the beginning phase, the feasibilities, the numbers, knowing what contractors you need. They may not have the skill set around what happens once you go post DA approval. Now you're delivering something. And so town planner will do the town planning process, whereas as a development consulting company, we'll look at the broader picture.
Yeah, actually taking it through to completion.
All the way to the completion. And because we are actively in that space, we've got a lot more knowledge than just the standard town planning process. And development is far more than just the town planning process.
Exactly.
Developers, sort of seasoned developers, true developers, actually have a huge responsibility through the entire project life cycle. They're going from due diligence and buying all the way through to town planning, and then physically constructing things and then marketing them and selling them. I mean, that's a pretty broad skill set. So you need to have a good team around you, but being aware of how that works is a really good skill set to have.
And a lot of the developers are actually the ones taking the risk, right? Like I know, developers, they get paid out pretty heavily online, everyone's like, developer this, they're the worst. But at the end of the day, they're the ones who get paid, last. Everyone gets paid before the developer, and then if there's a little bit left on top, then they'll get paid, right? And you know what? Sometimes it is, a lot left on top, but at the end of the day, they're the ones who are taking the risk, putting their cash on the line and making the whole thing work, because if it doesn't go well, then they also take the hit. So I think a lot of people don't see that side of it, a lot of stress and time and, money involved. It's not just a matter of the developers are driving around in their Lambos.
Look, the development community, the developers, they do cop a lot of stick. But I would agree with you. So development is risky, and development costs a lot of money, and the risk involved is where the return is. So we all know, the higher the risk, the greater the return, and the lower the risk, the less the return. But developers do take a lot of risk on, and there's a lot of really good developers out there that do great development, and they continue to take on risk and work out things and be entrepreneurial. But they do get paid last. And today, with the way the market works in terms of bureaucracy, so getting approvals, and then construction costs are very high. And then even when you are physically constructing buildings, there's all of that risk around weather and labour and all that. So the poor old developer has a lot to take on their shoulders.
So for a newer developer, someone, maybe even a mum and dad who's looking into the game, they see someone doing really well out of it, or their mate's brother, does some developments on the side or some subdivisions. How can someone actually look at getting into the game, or where would they start, for someone who's got no idea, has an idea of what they want to do? Where would they start? Would they talk to someone like you, go look at some sites, or where would you recommend they start?
Yeah, definitely. There's probably a number of areas. So we all know the internet is an amazing tool, so you would be mad not to jump online, do some basic research on developing. So, if we pick an example, something that's closer to home, if we do sort of small lot subdivisions, there's a lot of information online around that, and you'll get different bits of information and articles depending on how widely you want to read. So definitely starting there, and you can pick up the broad picture, and you can also get some articles that'll delve right down into the detail. And I've got some basic stuff even on our website, and the intention is it's basic for a reason. It's just to give you the overall process. The other one is really potentially obvious, which is you can talk to someone like myself, and we do complimentary consultations for people initially, and of course we do paid advice as well. And so if you're looking to shortcut knowledge, paying for the advice is the way to go.
I think a lot of people want the free advice, but it's just like, it's worth paying a little bit just to get the knowledge under your belt. Because even then, when you look at one site, you might learn, okay, this is what we want to avoid, so then you can take that through the next site.
Oh, absolutely. The best way to learn is in the doing.
Exactly.
But you can't always do that. So some people, whether they be a new developer or an existing property owner who just wants to develop once, they're going to need some basic information. So we're happy to share the process because that's what we're here for. And then after that, though, they need to make a decision. And ultimately, the learning is in the doing. And a lot of people are starting for the first time. So they start for the first time, they do their basic reading, they think they understand the process. If you do something like a consultation with us or another planner, they're going to take your brief or your goal and shortcut what you need to know. And then once you then have the general picture mapped out for you, you just have to start. And it always starts with due diligence and site sourcing. And ironically, that's exactly what you and I do. But it is really good to start there and just be prepared that you're going to have to learn on the fly. But you don't have to do it by yourself, though.
I think that's the most important part, is having the team around you, right?
Absolutely. I would say you don't need to be an expert on development or town planning or whatever you're doing to get involved. What you do want to do is have a broad understanding of what it is, understand the risks, and then have a good team around you, and then leverage that team. So the way we do some we offer services where we can basically help people with due diligence, so site searching, and we'll have multiple conversations with them. And what I say to them before we begin is, every single time we speak, you're going to learn something new about subdivision or the town planning process. And we're going to pass that down the line to you so that the next time you look at a site, you can apply that information. And in the end, you'll get better and better and better, and you may not even need us for some of these decisions in the future.
Exactly,
And that's the goal.
You've got to start somewhere. Everyone starts somewhere, hey.
Yep.
And I was going to go back to it as well. I know you mentioned like a smaller subdivision. So for someone who is literally at the very start, really breaking it down, what is a small lot subdivision, and say what would it entail actually doing something like that?
Yeah, excellent question. The best example would be to use Brisbane. So a small lot subdivision or a 2-lot subdivision in Brisbane is basically where you're finding a lot, call it an 800 square metre lot, and you're going to subdivide that into generally two rectangles. And you will need to find that property, and you'll need to prepare plans and get a DA approval for it. And then once you have a DA approval, you'll need to deliver a range of infrastructure in the ground, and eventually you'll come out at the other end with 2 lots, or 2 titles they call it.
Yeah, nice. You've essentially created a lot.
Yeah, and so the process is actually really simple. It's find a site, get a DA approval, construct some civil services, and get titles at the end. Now, in amongst that whole process, though, there's a heap of complexity and a heap of hurdles that you need to work through. And that's what we're here for. But and you'll never without doing understand all those. You'll need to eventually work through it, and even every project can be a little different, but the process remains the same.
Exactly, yeah. Because we talk to, like yourself, lots of developers who are looking to do stuff, but there's always something different with each site, hey? Like, no site is the same. And I always say to a lot of people as well, because they might get scared off with something, whether it's like a funny sewer pipe or something random. You're like, yeah, that's an issue, but a lot of the time there's actually no perfect site out there. You know what I mean? Like, there are some, very A-grade sites, but every site is going to have its issue,
There are some,
For
the
right money as well.
I like that term, an A-grade site. Yeah, for the right money you might find an A-grade site. Look, I would add to what you're saying by saying absolutely what you mentioned, because ultimately if you're first starting, it's what we talked about earlier. It's what is your goal? Is it to be a developer, and are you subdividing? And what's your budget and how long have you got? If you understand those things, then you can start to look for properties and position yourself, because there's no point beginning if you've only got 50 grand, but you want to buy $2 million properties. So I know they're very simple concepts, but those concepts are vital. And once we get you bedded down on that decision making, then you just got to find the site, and that's a whole different journey in its own way. But it can be done, and it's a matter of numbers. They often say in business or sales that it's all about the numbers that you do. And I think from what I've seen and experienced over all the years, subdivision, especially infill small lot subdivision, is exactly that. If you look at 2 sites, you will probably find nothing. If you look at 100, you'll eventually pick up one, and you've got your first project. Yeah,
because this whole thing comes back to the buying side of things, is what we do as well. It's all good to have 5 sites you can subdivide, but if the numbers don't work, what's the point? Because if they're asking 20% more than what it's actually worth, then most of the time your numbers aren't going to work. And I think that's where a lot of buyers can go wrong, is they just see the site and they think, oh, that's great, we found something we can subdivide, let's just buy it. And they don't really do their numbers, or they don't think about it. And then they get into it and they're like, oh crap, wait a minute, they're actually going to lose money on this, because then they do their figures and it doesn't make money, especially for people who are wanting to buy today and sell in 18 months time, and they're not really looking to, hold it as the market grows. Whereas I think that's where a lot of opportunity is as well for a lot of people. It's like, if you can pick something up, maybe sit on it for a few years and then let the market continue to do its thing as it's been doing for the last 25 years, then you'll start to see some real growth, and then you can maybe do a subdivision down the track or something like that. So there's always lots of different options, hey? But I think, yeah, obviously buying well is 100% the right thing after you find the right site.
After you find the right
site. And I was going to ask you as well, with someone out there, they're going to opens on Saturdays, trying to look at a few properties potentially that they could do some development stuff to. What's a few things that they should be looking out for that are sort of red flags when it comes to looking at sites?
Yeah, and are we talking subdivision or
housing? If let's say someone's out there looking for their first subdivision, or even a splitter block, where you don't really have to do the DA process.
Yes.
What's something that you'd be looking out for, that if you see that on a site, you run?
Yeah, look, definitely. We've got a shortlist checklist.
Oh, yeah.
We call it. It's got about 10 items on it. I can attempt all 10, but we'll see how we go. But look, the key is, obviously, number one thing for small lot subdivisions is sloping to the street. And I know it sounds really simple. So sloping to the street solves your stormwater issue. If it slopes backwards, it creates all sorts of problems that are hard to solve. The other one in Brisbane is character houses. Often we have pre-1946 houses that sit over the top. Generally, they can't be moved, they can't be demolished. So you can have a perfectly good site that has a character house on it. It adds restrictions. The other one is street trees. Often we have street trees in front of properties, and they tend to get in the way of where we place driveways. And a street tree is enough to stop a subdivision.
Yeah. Council love their trees, don't they? I've found that the hard way in the past.
Look, they're very keen, and I know street trees are important, but they are a problem for smaller subdivisions. So knowing that is really important. Other things, we call them pits and posts and poles. So Telstra pits in the ground, you do not want to be moving a Telstra pit.
No.
Electricity poles, you do not want to be moving electricity poles. And stormwater gullies that sit in the curb and gutter, excuse me, they are also all sorts of bits of infrastructure you do not want to move. And so when you go to the site and you're staring at it, you'll look at it and go, I've got 800 square metres, it's sloping to the street, it's got an old home, it's a modern home, I can knock that down, and I can't see any trees in my way, I can't see any poles in my way, I can't see any gully pits in my way. You are well and truly on the way to moving towards the right property.
And I think it's even doing your other checks, like, checking whether, if there's any pipes underneath it, or if there's any manholes can be another one as well.
Manholes can be another one.
Yeah, manholes can be a bit annoying if there's one right somewhere where you don't want it to be in the middle of your lot or something like that. There's so many different rules around, setbacks and how far you got to be from manholes, or even if there's maybe a stormwater pipe under the property or something like that, they can cause all sorts of issues, hey?
They can, and sometimes they can be opportunities too. So for example, if you have a property which is draining to the rear, if there's a dedicated council stormwater pipe in your property, it can sometimes offer an opportunity for you to connect in. Whereas if it wasn't there, you probably don't have a subdivision. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that's where it comes back to, you just do your due diligence and you do your research properly. You don't jump into it too fast, and you have the right team around you, and you chat to the right people to actually make sure you're buying the right site. And then you're not getting 3 months into it and then being like, I finally decided to call Brian and he's telling me now I've got all these issues, and maybe we can't subdivide it. Especially, sorry, I'll let you talk, because a lot of agents will also be like, this site's a development site. And then when you actually look at it, it's like, well, is it? You've got to be a bit careful with that as well.
That's true. I have a saying which goes, the agent is there to sell the property on behalf of the owner. They're not there to represent your interests as the buyer. So you have to represent your own interests. And everything you said is completely true. You need to do DD. And if you use a checklist, and that's the key to also, as a very, very beginning developer, if you're trying to develop everything at once, it won't work. If you're looking at subdivisions and townhouses and renovations and all these projects at once, you're going to water down your skill set. Whereas if you focus on one development type, have a checklist, check the 10 things every time. Most of them you can do them from a desktop these days. You can very quickly sift through 10 sites a day if that's all you're doing, or 10 sites a week,
Yeah.
and then you shortlist them. And if they're on the market or you think they're available, go and have a look at them.
Yeah.
Make your offer.
Make your offer, and then try to pick something up. Is there anywhere in particular, like in Brisbane or surrounds at the moment, that you see like some good opportunity that maybe people aren't quite tapping into? Like I know, when we look at properties and chat to people, a lot of people only want the splitters or the subdivisions. Is there any other like opportunities you see that maybe people miss a little bit, and there's some opportunity to sort of tap into a different market or something like that, if that makes sense?
It's an excellent question.
Yeah.
I don't think I have the answer you want.
No, that's all right.
I'm not aware of any hidden opportunities. What I would say though is if it's about infill development, the truth is it's a competitive market. And so you will be competing with people who are experienced, who have finance, who've done it before. But it doesn't mean you won't find a site. It just means you need to know what you look for, which is why I call it sifting. And the sifting process is about using a very quick process or checklist to look at sites and get them on or off. And the more you look at, the better you'll be against the person who's only looked at one or two.
For sure. Yeah.
And look, it's easy to say, but look, making connections with people and trying to find things that aren't on the market, which I know is something you can help people with, that's a bonus, that's an asset. Because if it's on the market, the chances are there's something wrong with it. Or they're looking for too much money.
Exactly. Yeah.
The best of the best subdivision sites, the A-class ones, will go to someone else before you see them on the open market.
Yeah.
But there's lots of development sites. So I would say, maybe in answer to your question, the hidden gem is the fact there are lots of development sites. They're just not on the market. And they're just sitting there quietly with mums and dads in them, families in them, not ready to sell yet. So there's a process there potentially for people. And of course, approaching people, if you're that game, if you want to approach people, and approaching people with the right property is the secret to shortcutting that. Don't look at anything that slopes away from the street. That's pointless. Yeah. So that one thing alone can just halve your choices.
Exactly.
Yeah. So hard to say there's any hidden opportunities. If I think of them, I'll let you know.
If you could think of them, you'd be doing them, and you wouldn't be telling us.
Well, is that as consultants, that's what we're here for, to help people. But no hidden opportunities.
I don't think there's no hidden secrets anywhere really these days, is there? One last question so far.
Yeah.
New mum and dad getting out there, they want to start getting into the development game or look at doing something. What's sort of the one piece of advice you would give them going forward and starting in that journey? The
one piece of advice I would say is pick your development type, know your budget, know how long, and understand the risks, and that's it. And you can do that in a 1 hour meeting with a consultant or jump online.
Yeah. It's as easy as that, hey?
It's as easy as that.
And how can people get in touch with you so the people can...
The best way is on our website.
Yeah.
So jump on there, www.privatetownplanner.com.au.
Perfect.
And we've got a booking button there. We welcome people to book a phone consultation with us. The first one's complimentary.
Awesome.
It's a perfect system. Book a time you like. Put in some details. We'll have a chat with you and see how we can help. Awesome. Well, I'll link Brian's details below, so you can see he's a wealth of knowledge. If you want to get in touch with him, anything development, feel free to reach out to him or myself if you're looking for sites and build up that team. So Brian, thanks for coming on, mate. Really appreciate all the insights. Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Isaac.